Good day, students. So now we will tackle about the techniques and performances applied to contemporary arts. So first, let us read our learning objectives. So at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to identify the different techniques and performance practice applied to contemporary arts. Create artworks using techniques or performance applied in contemporary arts and cultivate creativity in exploring different techniques and performance practices applied to contemporary art. So at the end of the lesson, the students will be should be able to create artworks using the different techniques and performances that applied in contemporary arts. So first, what is contemporary art? So contemporary art is the art today produced by artists that provides an opportunity to reflect on contemporary society and issues relevant to ourselves and world around us. So the contemporary artworks often focus on the effect on and experience of an artwork's viewer. So there are different techniques used in contemporary art. First is minimalism. So what is minimalism? Describes movement in various forms of art and designs, especially visual art. So, the minimalism is a contemporary art movement that emphasizes simplicity, clarity, and authenticity. So, this is the example of minimalism art. So, as you can see, minimalism art uses basic shapes, clean lines, and limited color palette. So, this is minimalism art. Next is found object. So found object describing art created from undisguised by often modified objects or products. So this is the example of found object art. So found object in contemporary art are objects that artists used to create art even though they weren't originally intended as art materials. So as you can see, this is a lobster, right? So they modify it to become a telephone, right? So this is the example of found object. Next is the large scale. So refers to the size of an object in relationship to another object and the human body is significant. So by the word large, so it is expected to be a huge. So this is an example of a large scale. So large scale is a type of art that is created on a large scale, often using unconventional materials. So it can be used to make a statement or create a beautiful piece of art. So by the way, what is unconventional materials? So unconventional materials are those materials that are not usually used as an materials for art. Like example, found objects. Like unlike with the conventional materials are those that are commonly used as materials, traditional materials such as paintbrush, canvas, pencil. Those are the conventional materials. So there are other contemporary art techniques. So first is the collage. So collage is a technique that of an art production primarily used in the visual arts, where the artwork is made from assemblage of different forms, thus creating a new whole. So collage is a technique within art production that uses different types of forms of assemblage to form a composition within the artwork, thereby creating a new whole from the constituent part. So this collage comes from the and next is this is the example of the collage art. So next is the decollage. So decollage used by the artists of the new realism movement that involved making art from poster ripped from walls. So this is the example of decollage. So decollage is an art technique that involves cutting, tearing, and or removing parts of an image to create a new piece of art. So decollage comes from the French word décollage, which means to take off or to unstick. So the difference between collage and decollage, so the collage is it means to stick or to glue, while the decollage, which means to take off or to unstick. Next type of an art is the land art. So land art is an earth art movement in which landscapes and the work of art are inextricably linked. It is also an art form that is created in nature using natural materials such as soil, rock, and etc. So this is an example of the land art. So as you can see, it uses some stones, grass. So land art is also known as earth art. So it is a type of contemporary art that involves creating structures or sculpting the land itself using natural materials, such as soil, water, plants, stones. So this is the example of land art. Next is graffiti. So graffiti is writing or scribble, scratch, or sprayed illicitly on the wall or the other surface. So I know you're very familiar with this art technique. So this is the example of graffiti. So graffiti art as a term refers to the images or text painted usually onto buildings, typically using spray paint. Next is the mixed media. So mixed media is a term used to describe artworks composed from a combination of different media or materials. So this is an example of mixed media. So mixed media is a type of art that combines different materials, techniques, and artistic discipline. So it can be include traditional art materials, found object, and digital art. So there are different contemporary art performance practices. First is the conceptual art. So conceptual focuses on the idea, which can be either abstract or social. So conceptual art can take many forms, including performance, and contemporary conceptual art often involves audience participation. So next is popular culture. So popular culture issues and aspects of popular culture are dealt with either by conceptualizing or criticizing. So examples of popular culture and contemporary performance arts include the interactive storytelling, games, spontaneous movement. So performance art are a form of cultural expression that can include music, dance, theater, and more.
Conceptual art. Conceptual art refers to art which emphasizes a concept or idea. Performance art, ready-mades, abstract art, and other artistic mediums such as painting, sculpture, and photography are common in creating conceptual art. Conceptual art is more cerebral than physical, tends towards minimalism and abstraction, and often addresses psychological and social justice themes. Conceptual art rose to prominence in the United States, Latin America, and Europe between the mid-1960s and mid-1970s, and is still prevalent in contemporary art.
Okay, figure this one out. What's more of a chair? This photograph of a chair, this dictionary definition of a chair, or this actual chair that no one is allowed to sit on? Who knows? But this is art, and we're here to brush up on your art terms. Conceptual art is a tricky thing to define. In the 1960s and 70s, groups of artists made the case that the concept or idea behind a work of art is the most important thing about it. One conceptual artist, Sol LeWitt, wrote in 1967, "The idea itself, even if it is not made visual, is as much a work of art as any finished product." Conceptual art can look like and be made from pretty much anything, But one thing stands out: the use of language. Some artists, like Yoko Ono and Saul LeWitt, had ideas for artworks and left instructions on how to make them. John Baldessari made a painting about painting by only painting words. So now you know, take a leaf out of the conceptual art book and repeat after me. I will not make any more boring art. Okay, figure this.
So the next performance applied to contemporary art is the biographical. So biographical means of expression can be social, poetical, or expressive. So Ana Mendita's work is an example of biographical performance art in contemporary art. So Mendita's work often drew her own nomadic life story and experiences of migrants. So this is an example of Ana Mendita's work. So next is poetic. So poetic content or form is poetic in nature. So poetic performances contemporary art can involve the use of poetry, music, dance, and other mediums to create time-based experience for the audience. So next is social. So social, currently social and politically topics are dealt with often from critical perspective. So social practice art is a contemporary art movement that uses art to make positive social change. Social practice art projects can include community centers, gallery exhibition, and other performances. So are you familiar with the gallery exhibition, right? Where they will exhibit their different types of artwork. So last is the expressive. So expressive, both content and form, is meaningful and communicative. So expressive performance in contemporary art can include spontaneous movement, interactive storytelling, and creative movement. So it can also include the use of extended techniques, complex musical materials, and changes in acceptable sound production. So for your assessment, you are going to create a simple collage from the objects around you using magazines, creativity, and resourcefulness, and give a short explanation why you chose to create that artwork. So rubrics for this is creativity and originality, which is 25 points, effective use of materials from the surrounding, which is 15 points, neatness and organization, 10 points, with a total of 50 points. So that's all for our discussion for today. Thank you and goodbye.